I told you we sit you at the feet of the masses, but more importantly, we have conversations that are geared towards helping you evolve in your life. Listen, we don't ask you for cash apps, Venmos, or any of those things, but what we do ask is your currency to us for the information that you receive from our guests and from myself is that you hit like and subscribe. Not only that you go and support our guests, or go to the website, sign up for his offerings, whatever they may be that you find interesting. Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning, this is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from, but I do appreciate the fact that you are listening. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory as the summer comes to a close. By the time you're listening to this, the summer may already be closed, but neither here nor there. We are here for the conversation. I want to really dive into, as the fall comes, a lot of times people start to really take inventory about how they want to end the year and so forth and so on. We don't believe in resolutions. We've talked about that inexhaustibly. If you're new here, I believe today you don't really put off till next year, which you can start doing today. Resolutions usually fall flat after a few moments because the mind is geared towards starting, but we have to really program the mind towards completion. So we look at the calendar year, we say, oh, next year I'm going to do this. It's August. So you want to wait till next year to better your life? No, we do that now. However, what we can do is start to look at, if we're thinking in terms of finances, start to look at how we're going to position ourselves, whether it's position ourselves as entrepreneur to better take advantage of tax breaks or things of that nature, to position ourselves to better look at how we can end the quarter strong. Or we may have 401ks that we haven't looked at in a while, or some investments that are laying dormant. I don't understand how people can have these 401ks or access to these investments and they never really take the time out to sit down and look at it or anything, i.e. Enron. I'm not talking about you. We can use examples. We have a whole system of people that just never looked. And we want to get past that. We want to really start to really implement the way that we approach not just how we make money, but what we do with the money when we make it, and having real conversations centered around that. People are afraid right now because the media produces fear-based headlines to make us afraid to invest, to make us afraid to have these conversations, to make us afraid to move forward. And that's just for the masses. But those of us who walk in victory, we're not afraid to have money conversations. We're not afraid to learn. We're not afraid to say that we don't know, because I don't know leads us to knowing, right? Lying to ourselves leaves us in ignorance, and we don't want to lie to ourselves. We want to have conversations that help us evolve, and gives us the ability to anticipate what's going on in the market, gives us the ability to have innovative talks and to really have these conversations with our next generation so that they don't repeat the same cycles that we hold on to now. It's not too late for us, but we can position our children to be better at stewardship than we are. And that's why we have these conversations. So if you're listening right now, get out a pen, get out a pad. You may learn one or two things that you did not think of before as we sit you at the feet of the masters and have conversations that will help you evolve your mindset. Rob, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. First of all, can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and we're going to dive right into this conversation.
Sure. So my name's Finlay. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been very fortunate. I've started multiple businesses and I've had multiple exits, successful exits. I'm also a father of four, and as well as an author. I've written a couple books. I've got a few more on the way. And last but not least, I'm also a farmer. So I spend my time when I'm not working or raising kids and or writing. I like to farm.
Let's start with the farming aspect. As we see what's going on with the processed foods, the price of foods, and this whole mindset, people being are afraid. Why is farming something that not only helps you to relieve stress, probably, because I know being in the grass and being in the field can be somewhat meditative, but how do you see the role of the farmer and what it is that is happening now, where people are looking to other resources when everything that we need is really in our yards, so to say.
Right. Right. Well, I think, farming is actually there's like two sides of farming. You've got one camp which is these big commercial farms, and they produce probably 99% of the stuff that we eat, probably even a higher percentage than that. And then the second side is you have these grassroots farmers that are farming organic and locally, and there's a big movement. Unfortunately, the divide is very wide.
Mm,
And the way that I look at agriculture, and I love producing my own food. We have chickens, we have a big garden, um, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction to go out and have a cucumber that I've made. But what I'm trying to do actually is I'm trying to bridge the divide. It's being an entrepreneur. What I'm trying to do is I've noticed, and by my own fault, I bought a farm thinking and had no clue of what I was doing, right? I bought a farm, I wanted a farm, and only to find out that my soil is dead. Like so much soil in our country that has been over farmed, and we can only we only take. And my first time farming, first thing I did was, local guy came out and he said, oh yeah, you need NPK, these fertilizers on your field, and you're going to go put it on, and then you're going to cut your crop off, and you're going to put it on again and cut your crop off. And I wasn't doing anything to the soil. So my whole goal in farming is to go from the soil up and really focus on regenerative techniques to make our soil better. So that when I go out to my field and I dig up soil, it's not just dirt, which is dirt is just dirt. Soil is actually with the microorganisms and stuff in it. And so that's where it just became a passion project for me, which is, can I try to make a business helping the soil for farmers?
let's look at that mindset, because someone like me, I have we have some fruit trees in my yard. I have a small place where we grow some we're growing corn. We do something, but not a big farm, right? But so
Sure.
someone may look at that and I see, oh, I got some seeds and I just plant. The way that your mind is structured because of your years of business, and this is, I think, is important for the audience to capture, is that you are in the middle of doing, you built a little farm and what started out as a passion project. What do you think subconsciously goes on in your mind while you're dealing with the soil and you can see opportunity? And how has your mind and the way that you process the world been able to sustain you and your family?
So it's about being observant, right? I think, if we sit there and if our lives are focused inside our phones and our social media and all that stuff, we start to lose perspective, right? We start to learn, we start to lose that connectivity that we have with the world. By being observant, by looking at things and being open to things, you can start to say, hey, wait a second, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. And so in farming, it didn't take very long. You don't have to be a really smart person to say, boy, if I put $1 into my field and I only get 90 cents out, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? That's not a sustainable business. Or even if I put $1 in and I get $1 out, but at the same point, there's the alternatives are always really hard, right? So, in farming, and for example, as I said, is very widely divided, right? You've got one group is, hey, just put chemicals on it, you're going to produce, and and you'll get what you get, and you make your margin. The other side is, yes, if I spend all my time doing something and I can make it, it's not necessarily sustainable. And that's what I'm trying to do is make by making agriculture sustainable, by making it easier to adopt techniques that will improve our soil. So it's just a different mindset, but it comes back to being an entrepreneur, as you said. It's the mindset. For some reason, I'm wired to the point. It's probably because I come from a generation of entrepreneurs. My mindset is you're either going to do it for business, love, or enjoyment, right? Or one of those, or whatever it is. And for me, I look at the business. I enjoy building businesses. I enjoy it. It's something that gives me pleasure. And so if I can apply that to agriculture, to anything, it makes sense.
When you talk about thinking ahead of the curve, what
Yep.
are one or two principles that really jump out at you? Because we hear that phrase all the time, and then when we sit with someone, sometimes it can be dense. Can you share with
Yep.
the audience, like, what are some of the trends that you're seeing right now from where you sit positionally, and how should we be thinking ahead of the curve so that we don't get caught in the avalanche, but we're actually navigating our lives?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to the principles are, I said a little bit before, it's being observant, right?
Hmm.
Pay attention what's going on, right? When you're out, it's like, and I talk like with parents all the time too. It's like when you go out and have dinner with your kids, are you letting them, are you engaging with them? Are you being present? And as a father, as well as I do, is like it's important to be present with your kids. It's not just the amount of time, it's the quality of time that you're providing. And so being observant means, hey, I go and I like to just observe. I go to a fast food restaurant, right? I love Jersey Mike's, is my guilty pleasure. Love Jersey Mike's. But Jersey Mike's, they're so efficient, right? Their app is great. I pick what I want, I know what I want, and boom, I go pick it up, and I know what I'm going to get. And so it's being observant to that, to where you're saying, boy, that kind of that the way that people interact with their app, maybe I should apply some of that UI UX, the usage or the way they use it, in some of my own stuff. So it becomes that becomes part one, is being observant. The second thing, don't be afraid.
Mm.
You said it well. There's so, I mean, the press, you can't, the press has to be negative, right? You can't, because nobody's going to read it if it's, oh, hey, things are going great, right? There are things out there that we're witnessing two major miracles in our life right now. And so this is, and I put these are two change the world forever type things. One is AI, and the second is these GLP-1s, right? So AI, obviously everybody knows AI. That's basically, you know is going to really change it. I know there's a lot of press, and there's, people are fearful of it, but back to that point, embrace it. This stuff's going to be amazing. This stuff is going to make your job so much better, and you can make you much better. And the GLP-1 is, you know, obesity, which is a major problem for people in this world and in this country in particular. With GLP-1s, these are like the Ozempics and the Wegovy's and all of this stuff are making people skinnier and healthier. So it's just these are two major technological changes that we cannot be afraid of.
And the GLP-1s are going to get better with AI, because AI is going to work through some of the kinks that we may have seen in first iterations of it, that will no longer present themselves. In everything, we're going to have a small percentage of fracture or failure.
Mhm.
However, as we continue to develop and grow and have these agents working alongside us as co-collaborators, and not necessarily working for us. And I think that's what people are missing the mark with AI. They think that the AI is working for us, it's working in collaboration, in concert with us. So I can take your brain, put it into an agent, and that agent takes the way that you think and make it 1,000 times better. But you still have to bring something to the table, or you're just going to get
Right.
mush.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is to put on a podcast, right? What you do is absolutely I can't imagine how much time and effort it takes, and it would be impossible. I mean, do you use AI to help you
Yeah.
plan and prep? Yeah,
Yes.
and that makes sense, right? And it should be something that people should embrace, right? You can leverage yourself. I mean, leverage being able to leverage things is so important in our world, right? I leverage a car just so I can travel longer and farther. I leverage AI to help me with my job. I leverage, whatever it is to leverage to be able to do things better. And I think it's a great leverage is not a always a negative term.
And I'm glad that you brought that forward, because one of the things that I've done, um, and going back to old episodes, changing the titles, using AI to help me better produce titles, to better produce SEO, uh, to help my episodes, the older episodes, get seen, juxtaposed to just putting out more content. Oh, more content,
Yeah.
but doing content better,
Yes.
faster, so that the new stuff is building on something that's already better,
Yeah.
and giving that the AI the rhythm to understand where it is that we want to go to. Sometimes we get so caught up in just trying to put out more, that the old stuff drags us down, and just taking
Yeah.
the time to like the soil of the soil for any content is the words that we use. The soil for any
Yes.
content is the way that we mirror our work. I'll give you a great example, and this is for anyone who's listening, who's podcasting. So when you do search, or when you make a title in Apple, you want to keep the characters under 60 letters. YouTube is between 80 letters, because those you can get the whole title in within 80 characters. I didn't know the exact count between the two platforms. So now I keep my characters for my titles under 60 letters, so I don't have to make a title for YouTube and a
Yeah.
title for but just having that knowledge base. And it's something I could have read in an article, but having a collaborative partner to be able to say, hey, this is what the rhythms are looking for. And now we can load those titles up with search friendly terms that people it's a game changer. What are some
Yeah.
of the game changers? And that's what forward thinking is, right? That's what being progressive is about. What are some of the game changers that you're seeing as you start to even, I understand you built businesses before, but I'm kind of fascinated with where it is that you're going with the agricultural piece, because that's going
Yeah.
to be necessary. If we can find a way to bridge the gap between the big guy and a little guy, that's, I
Right.
think, is going to be really, really awesome.
Yeah, and that's so back on the business side, what we're going though is back to this AI stuff too, is like so one of my businesses in the commercial real estate space, we're making our huge investment into AI, and it's really using it as I'm in real estate as well, and I've realized like the generative AI where you can talk to it and ask questions and query and it thinks about things is so powerful because that's the way that we talk and we look. And so I'll ask this product that we have is called Lobby AI. And when we talk to Lobby AI, I'm not replacing people, but I'm able to work with my agents, these AIs 24/7. So in the middle, just because my schedule might be a little bit different, I travel a lot, I do a lot of things. So 6 o'clock on Sunday, I can start talking. If I've got my brain's going, wait a second, Rob, what do you think about this? And I can start to ask it, hey, what about this? The cash balance of this property changed between this and this. What should I do about it? And this and this, and it's able to interact with me. So changing the way that we do business is one thing. On the agriculture side, and that's on my real estate side. On the agriculture side, what we're doing right now is I bought a historically significant farm in Virginia, right on the border of West Virginia and Virginia. And what I'm trying to do is, as I said, I bought it. It'd been commercially farmed, and sort of let go over many years. And it's by no fault of the farmer because all you have to do is spend an hour with a farmer to realize how hard that life is. Right, that's a whole different world. That is a hard life. But what I realized when I bought this land was, as I said, the soil was dead. the soil it's basically dirt. And so what I've done is I've worked with some researchers, and what we're trying to do is we're doing the farm now has become a test bed. We have all these plots going, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to work on different microorganisms and fungi that are going into the soil. What can we do that is going to create the soil that is going to have all of the microorganisms and all the stuff in it that it will be able to produce? And that's what I want. But more importantly is people are doing that now by making compost and adding biochar, like adding all this stuff. What I want to do is my end goal for this product is can I create a amendment, something where I can put and spray on my fields or put into my fields like they do fertilizer.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what my goal is, because that's taking that wide divide between commercial ag where they just go down, if a commercial ag, they test the soil, and the soil scientists will say, oh, you need nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, blah blah blah. You need all these things. They put it in a little bag and they spray it out onto the fields. I want that same thing, but instead of the fertilizers on the field, I want these microorganisms and good biology to go into the soil.
And I'm asking these questions. I want the listener, not because I'm interested in farming, or I know a group of people that's interested in farming. We could have had a commercial real estate conversation, but the basic foundations are still the same. And because this is something that you're birthing in its genesis, I want people to see how to process when they're going through building something from the ground up, because I think that that's important, regardless of where we are in our entrepreneurial mindsets. When we start something new, it has to go through the same genesis. Just
Yeah,
because you were great in commercial real estate doesn't mean that you're not going to go through pitfalls in this particular project. But the approach is where if you understand.
absolutely. The funny part about it, and you actually mentioned it. So we're actually going to video
Mm.
back to this stuff. And actually the series is called From the Ground Up. And it's basically because people wanted to see that you're absolutely the aspect of an entrepreneur. Like, what does it take to actually start and build a company in something that you don't really know is going to make it, right? And it's and you're absolutely right. What do I have? I have budget issues, I have sales issues, I have marketing issues, I have all the same stuff. It's just that my product and people are different. And so that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to explain and show to people what it takes to grow a business and start a business. And it's that entrepreneurial mindset, which quite frankly, you have to, you know, I, I, I always think that the really smart people don't necessarily make the best entrepreneurs because they can find a way to say why it doesn't work, right? Any smart, sane person would look at the numbers and say, well, 90% of all businesses fail. Why would I start that? You're absolutely right. Why would you? Only a crazy person would do that.
And not only that, too, people who throw money at it.
Yeah.
They throw money at the problem, like they don't have to sit down and try to bootstrap it, uh,
Yep.
and then they don't really understand their market. They don't really understand their customer, because they can just fix the problem with money. And that's why you
Right.
see a lot of rich people go bankrupt over and over, bankrupt businesses, because they don't really have the patience or the time to build. In some instances.
Yep.
And we're even watching that in real time with Elon Musk, where brilliant at building this model and making all this money with Tesla and all, and using technology, was ahead of his game. But now you put him in another field and you see a lot of cracks and flaws, right?
Right. 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 Well, it's nice thing. That's the nice thing about being a CEO of a business that you're sort of the brainchild of, right? Because people typically give you a little leeway, right? But when you're thrown into the public perception, nobody cares.
No, no, no one cares. No, and then,
Nobody cares.
and you can cover up you can cover up a lot of your flaws, because people are afraid to really talk back. But when now you're etched in the middle of public, and your skirt as my grandmother gets slip starts to show, is a little
Yep.
bit different. the
Oh yeah, and it happens. Look, when you write books, I mean, that's sort of the great. You think that people are going to want to read your books, and you go out and you go through all this work to get books, and you realize like, wow, people don't really want to buy them, right? Or they, or maybe what I thought was so important, and isn't as good. So but that comes back to being observant, right? You've
Mhm.
got to be able to be observant of knowing what the audience is and what they're going to look at and how they're going to react to you or be able to pivot.
Yes, one of your key teaching points about centered around, and I think pivoting, and this is going to be germane to that whole conversation, is centered around mentorship and education. Why is that sometimes so overlooked? Where people just think that they can become an overnight success. And this question is going to be twofold. How bad was it during the COVID time when everybody became a coach or a mentor? Did it
Right.
did it did it do a stain to the industry?
Yeah. Well, I think first the why. Look, social media I love social media on one side, social media on the other side is very bad, right? And I think what happens is it breaks down the barrier of reality for young people in particular, right? It's like I know that some 20-year-old flying to Dubai on their private jet is probably not real unless it's their family, right? It's maybe a 0.0000001% maybe, but it's so understanding that that's the case. The the second question is like all of a sudden everybody the coaching and the get people sort of the that kind of mentoring I think is it's a very interesting phenomenon, isn't it? I mean, it seems like everybody is a coach these days. Everybody has something, and even people who I personally I won't name a name, but they're not in a great spot in their life, but they're going to go get a coaching certificate to go help people. I'm like, well, how? I don't know. I've always thought of leading by example, right? It'd be very hard for me to sit there and start talking about something, right? If I'm, I'm, I couldn't play basketball to save my life, right? I'm not going to be a basketball coach, right? Because people would see right through that, right? But yet people are doing that, and I think as the for somebody who's going to be the recipient of this coaching, you should probably make sure you check what are the credentials of this person and what are they doing. But I think it comes down to a bigger thing. Are we as a society just sort of a little bit more disappointed about where we're at in life? Is that why people, right? Everybody wants to YouTube, which is to me the greatest platform in the world, YouTube. And if you look at my search history in YouTube, you'll find everything from automotive to farming, tractoring, how to everything because I'm trying to learn. And are we as a society, are we using coaching and stuff to try to learn to do new skills or to try to be a better person?
Hmm. Hmm. What what impact has coaching had on you personally? You do real estate. You've been in business your life, all your life. You grew up in an industrious family, so you didn't
Yep.
have to have that learning curve, but you still went out and sought coaching. Why was that important in your personal development?
Yeah, I think, look, I think it's important. I think where you get coaching for things that matter to you, right? That you feel like you need to have. And the current coaching I have right now is from a well accomplished person on performance, right? And it's because what I'm trying to do is I needed help because I was trying to do a lot of things, right? I run 4 or 5 businesses. I'm writing a couple of books. I've got this and this, all these things going on, and what I was finding was I was just becoming just stagnant because I've become overwhelmed and burned out. And then I got to the point where I just don't want to do it anymore. And that's tough, right? And so like you were talking about early on about sort of I didn't want to wait until January to make my New Year's resolutions, right? I didn't that, and you're absolutely right. If it really needs to happen, I need to do it today. And so I went and sought out somebody, but I did a lot of due diligence in it because there's a lot of people. Look, you look once, and because of SEO and everything else, people are gonna, next thing you know, you're gonna get bombarded with ads and everything else. So I really needed to make sure, am I gonna go to the best that I can afford? And that's what I saw. But that was to make me more efficient as a business person with a lot of things going on.
And for those of you who are listening, for me, in the way that AI is, if you listen to earlier shows, what AI has enabled me to do as a interviewer was to become better, because I can just not just look at your profile. I know how to interview, but if I want to dive deeper, like this conversation that we're having, I can just do a search, go to it, and then say, "Hey, this is the person," and give them a profile. I want to learn some other things that we can dive into, because what I've learned from interviewing people is that you have the resume, the about me, all of that stuff, but you can't really find their passion from that. And in order to make
Right,
your interview pop, you got to know what they're into. So if I can
right.
figure out a person's passion, I can get the resume building stuff. I can get, but if I want to have an interesting conversation, I need to tap into your passion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's right. Because nobody wants me to just spout off about businesses or anything else, right? That's what people want to know. What are you passionate about? What matters to you, right? And it's family, it's agriculture, it's my business, my employees, the people I care about, right? And that's what life is all about. You've got to sort of set those things and find passion and purpose. One of the most difficult things, and I think a lot of people in my last book that I wrote called Hey Dad, it was really to help young adults who are going through this transition of basically becoming from dependent to independent. And it was modeled after my four kids who have all but one or have gone through college. And I think one of the biggest things is finding that purpose. One of them had a really difficult time. She graduated from college with a technical degree, and those jobs were no longer available when she graduated.
Mm.
And so this whole time, the whole time she was going to school, she thought her whole life was going to be one way. Excuse me, this trajectory was going to be this way. And the second it turned around that wasn't going to happen, she became really lost and really sort of, well, what do I do now in my life? Who am I? What is this purpose? What's my purpose now? I was supposed to do this and now I can't. So having that, and I tried to tell her, it's like, look, by the way, people need to find their purpose throughout years, right? I've talked to moms who all their kids have just gone off to college and they're looking for purpose, right? Their whole life was my purpose was my kids, and now they don't need me anymore. So what do I do? People who are retiring, my whole purpose was my job. I need that. So I think it's important for people to find that purpose, to understand that it changes over time, but to do it, to embrace this change, because this is quite frankly what is exciting in life. You're looking forward to change in your life, and that's good. That's a good thing.
And I'm glad that that was a perfect way to pivot this conversation, right? Because it is about our purpose and what it is that we present to the world, and what it is that we leave. We have a generation right now of students that are in college paying these exorbitant prices, and I'm not against college. I think that college is great because it gives you structure, shows that you can start something and complete it, right? It shows that you have an idea. When you go in as a young man or young woman, you come out as a budding adult that's ready to enter into a workforce with a completed something. But we have to ensure as parents that our children are not taking courses that may be outdated
Mhm.
and fall into that place where you express your daughter. And it's not just your daughter, it's so many children that's in debt. They're not going to say, the school's not going to say, oh well, the debt is going to be forgiven now because we gave you an outdated course.
Right, 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 right.
Don't work like that. So we have to ensure that when we are looking at extending education? Are we doing so with the future in mind? And that's why one of your talking points, one of your topics, which is really, really good, on how to think ahead of the curve. Not just it's in business, but not just in business, in education, in coaching, and all those things. And look at the models that we have before us. I'm finishing my first book, and it's completed, but I'm going through the re-edits. And you know that when you go through the re-edits again, it's like you're writing all over again.
Stop it. You gotta stop it. NaRon, you just gotta just say do it. You have to set a deadline. You cannot. And by the way, the worst thing ever is you're gonna do your audiobook one time, and and if you ever do it yourself, you're gonna do it and you'll be like, oh my gosh, did I just say that? Did I just write that? So just set your time.
Yeah.
Just be done. You gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Otherwise, you're gonna be doing it forever.
Yeah, the hard deadline is this week, so
Okay.
it's all finished. I'm just talking about getting the chapters and everything buttoned up. But here's the reason why I brought that up. As the book is about internal awakening, I am tapping into your true I am self, and using prompt engineering, subconscious reprogramming through neuroscience, mindfulness teaching, and spiritual awakening. All that a master blend of all of those things, and showing the synergy between all of those things. But the tapping into who we are as a people, our true I am selves. I cannot be you. We might
Right.
have similarities, but the way that you process and view the world and the way I process and view the world is two different thought patterns, thought processes, and everything. The problem is we live in a society that builds cookie cutters, and they don't
Mhm.
reward creators anymore. Where the
Yep.
reward for creativity was really, really high in the thinking age. Now the reward for creativity may be a penalty at first. People won't really respond to your creative genius until you go through hell and make it to the other side. Now it's like, oh, that's a work of art. But they'll mimic you and laugh at you and scoff you as you go through the process. As we end, what are some of the things that keep you creating and keep you energized as you continue to build? And you can stop and say, hey, I've done real estate. I wrote all these books. I have passive income coming in and I can go golfing. But no, you're
Yeah.
still creating, you're still innovating. What keeps you at that creative edge?
Well, I think being creative and I think there are things that you can do for people that actually really help awaken your creative brain, the right side of your brain, and that is things like drawing, writing, music, singing. Hey, you like hymnals? Go sing hymnals, right? And it actually helps you out with your creativity. And so, those are all the things I personally I like writing, and I actually started writing more fiction just because that's more exciting to me, right?
Mhm.
All my other books are not right? So they're books on real estate, they're books on being a dad, or advice. But creating a story and fun and sort of fun. So those are ways that I do to stay creative, and I try to spend and I like to draw. Even though my drawing is horrible, I'll never get that, But for me, it's just, hey, it's just 5 minutes, and I can do that, right? So I think there's a lot of things, but once again, I think back to what you said though, I want to challenge you. I think being creative now with AI will change that dynamic, right? Because now, many times, if you're a super creative person, you might struggle with the logic of getting something accomplished. Now, you can use the tool to help you become a better version, like actually seeing success and that stuff. So I think that's where I think we're going to see it more. I think because AI doesn't necessarily help with creativity.
No, no.
It helps a creative person become better. And I think that's where like, hey, if I'm super creative and I need to, hey, I've got an idea for a poem, help me write this poem. Help ask me 10 questions to help get me out of it, or help it get out of my brain.
And that's a great point. And I think that's a great place to land at too, because AI is doing that. There's no longer a need for this super master gatekeeper, right? That
Yep.
that can hold your music up. because they,
Yep.
they they didn't release the budget, or all of this horror stories of
Yep.
make you sit on the
Yep.
casting couch, because you can have an idea, a computer and a camera, and go directly to market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
And let the people decide. The people will decide what's good.
Yes. Yes. And that's all that matters anyways. What you feel is good, right? You need to feel it's good. And as long as you feel it's good, go for it. As I said with my books, I felt like they were good. That's how I wrote them.
There you have it, everyone. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masses, but more importantly, we have conversations that are geared towards helping you evolve in your life. Listen, we don't ask you for cash apps, Venmos, or any of those things, but what we do ask is your currency to us for the information that you receive from our guests and from myself is that you hit like and subscribe. Not only that, that you go and support our guests. All of Rob's information is in the description. Go to the website, sign up for his offerings, whatever they may be that you find interesting, and prepare yourself and watch this documentary as it evolves. You can be a part of the early onset and really, really become a part of the subculture. And these things are geared towards helping you become better at what it is that you're doing. And these stories are and innovation and creation are all geared towards helping you become better, helping you become a part of the Walk in Victory family, and not just the outlier of the family, not the black sheep of the family, but actually walking in victory. Rob is now a part of the family, and you are too. Don't forget, don't hold your head down, don't make excuses. The world is your oyster. Just got to figure out your lane. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.